Alright, so we are continuing with solving equations. We have an equation here that is 10 minus 2x equals negative 9 minus x. Now the first thing we need to do is identify what are variables and what are constants. If you struggle with doing this visually, then one method I recommend is to do boxes and circles. This is one way that I'm able to separate all my pieces and keep everything together when I'm first starting to work on something. So I'm going to put a circle around every constant or anything that just has a number, and a box around anything that has a variable. So going through the equation, I have 10, that is a constant, so that's going to get a circle. Then we have minus 2x, that is going to get a box. Be sure to include the sign that is with it. If there's a sign in front of a number in variable, that goes with that piece. On the other side of the equal sign, we have a negative 9. That is a constant, so that gets a circle. And then we have minus x. That is a variable. One thing to keep in mind here is just because there's not a number shown to you doesn't mean that there's not an invisible number here. Whenever we have an invisible number, that means that it is worth 1. Now that we've identified all of our pieces, we can go ahead and move into starting to solve by doing the inverse to get all of our x's on one side and all of our constants on the other, so we can go ahead and solve. So we're going to start out by, I usually move my variables first just for consistency, and we do this by utilizing the inverse. So the inverse of what we're moving. So the opposite of minus 1x is plus 1x. So we're going to add 1x to both. The one that we're taking it from cancels out, and I'm going to go ahead and start rewriting this and keeping everything in their constant or variable category. So 10, still a constant, and then we know that this is still going to have a box around it, and I'm just going to do the simple math here off to the side. So negative 2 plus 1. If I use my calculator to do that, that tells me that my answer is negative 1. Negative 1. So I'm going to write in here negative 1, and do not forget your variable. Actually, I'm going to write that in white. So do not forget your variable when you do it. Retain your equal sign, and then negative 9 we never touch, so we're going to put that right back down. Now we need to do the same thing but with our constants. We want to get our constants to the opposite side. And again, we have to do this by doing the inverse. So the inverse of 10 is negative 10. So we're going to subtract 10 on both sides. Where you're moving it from cancels out, and I'm going to copy down what I have so far. So I know that that variable is still there, and it's going to be negative 1x is equal to, and then over here is where we're going to do our little bit of math. So that is negative 9 minus 10, and that gives me negative 19. If you're not sure with negatives, please go back and double check with a calculator to help you out. So we have negative 19, and that is a constant still. Now that we have all of our boxes or variables on one side and all of our constants on the other, we are going to go ahead and divide, which is my favorite step, to solve for x, or to solve your equation to get that variable all by itself. Now when I do this, you take everything in front of that variable. So we're going to divide by negative 1. Include the negative, otherwise your answer will be wrong. So that cancels out, leaving us with just x equals, and then using a calculator to help you as well, negative 19 divided by negative 1 gives me positive 19. That gives me my answer for this equation. If I was to plug back this number back into the equation, that both sides would be equal to each other. Remember when entering your answer on Google Classroom that it is probably best to simply put in the number for your answer. It makes it a lot easier and less likely for you to get it incorrect based on formatting. The code word for this problem is shell. S-H-E-L-L. Hope this helps.